Hello, and thank you for joining me in this moment. Let me begin by saying thanks to everyone for your well wishes and your messages of condolence as we deal with the death of our middle son, Brent, who transitioned this past weekend due to a fatal car accident. And as I was thinking late last night, it came to me. Guess it started a little bit earlier yesterday. Yesterday was a pretty bad day. But this message came to me, and I want to share it with you and request that you join in with me. But I want to talk a little bit today from the subject of Father's prayer for mercy. Father's prayer for mercy. And as I look back on Brent's life, as I, roll the tape of our experiences, as I look back on some of the things that we got to do, some of the dreams that we planned to do that we didn't get around to doing, some of the conversations that we had, no doubt I love my son, and I will tremendously miss his physical presence in this earth, miss the conversations that we won't have physically, miss him getting married and having grandbabies. But I also take all the joy that we did get to experience with one another in this earth. And when I look back over his life, I realize that he was like most of us. In fact, he was like all of us. He had some good days and he had some bad days. He had plenty of days of joy and he had days of sorrow. I can recollect his mother dying of cancer maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Like all of us, he had days when he was up and felt invincible and felt like he was on top of the world. And then days where he felt like he, just couldn't get out of the quicksand, and he was just, struggling just to maintain his sense of himself, his sense of upward mobility, his sense of making sense of this thing called life. And like all of us, his life was a mixture of some good mixed with some evil. And because of that, because I can look at myself and know that even where I am, there are many days that I fall short, that my prayer is, Father, have mercy on our son. You gave him to me. You allowed me to be the seed that caused him to be birthed into this earth, but I know he's yours. So I ask that if it's needed, that you would have mercy on your son. And I only ask that because hoping that it's not needed. I know that our tuition for eternal peace and freedom is to do more good in this earth than we do evil. And I just pray that in all of Brent's doing, if somehow he came up on the wrong side of the equation where the evil slightly outweighed the good, that our Father would have mercy on his soul, would have mercy on his soul and grant him the gift, the privilege of eternal peace and freedom. This is the Father's prayer. This is the Father's request. That though he wasn't perfect, he wasn't a bad kid, he wasn't a bad man. Though he might have done some bad things, he wasn't a bad person. And I hope that if he should fall on just outside of his good outweighing his evil, that you would join me as a witness, as a petitioner, and asking our Father to grant him mercy, to grant him mercy. That when they began to have the conversations, I can almost sense him making the transition and God saying to him, welcome back, my son. Welcome back, my son. Let's talk about your life in the earth. Let's sit down and chop it up. Brent used, a lot of street terminology. Really smart man, really smart kid. But, he got exposed to life and some of it he gravitated towards and just became his reality. So in understanding that, I know that there's going to be a good deal that he and God sit down and chop up. And I can imagine God saying, hey, what do you think? Tell me what you think about the experience that you had as a human in this earth. And I just pray that that conversation, whether it's already had, whether it's still being had, whether it'll happen in some future, that conversation will be dominated by more good than evil. That the conversation will largely encompass all the good that he did in comparison to the little and the not so good that he did. That when God says to Brent, tell me about the things that you did in the earth, that they'll both come to the agreement that Brent, in his, from our perspective, short life, fulfilled what he was sent here to do, fulfilled the work that he was sent here to do. I hope that when they have the conversation, that the conversation is about all the good that Brent chose and how that so outweighed the times when he didn't choose good and chose evil. That the tape of the life, that the tape of his life, when they go back and look at it and begin talking about it and examining it, that God will have to say, in agreement with Brent, that yes, you chose to help more often than you chose to intentionally hurt. That you chose to give of yourself more often than you chose to judge others. Yes, I hope that when they have that conversation, that the conversation is one where God will say, yeah, by and large, I know that you chose good over evil. That the record shows that you chose on many more occasions than not love over hate. That you chose faithfulness and fidelity to your friends, to strangers, to your family, over disloyalty. That you chose these things because you understood that there was a life after this physical life. And that the record shows that quite often you chose eternity over the temporal. That you chose spirit over flesh. And in choosing spirit over flesh, that the record shows that more times than not, you chose love, you chose joy, you chose peace, you chose patience, you chose kindness, you chose generosity, you chose faithfulness, you chose gentleness, you chose self-control. That you're on the winning side of choosing to birth ideas, to birth dreams, not only in yourself, but in others. That instead of killing dreams, your life was filled with birthing dreams, birthing ideas, bringing things from the mental state to this reality that we call this physical earth that we live. That when they look back on his life, that it will be crystal clear that on more occasions than not, he chose selflessness as opposed to selfishness. That when they look back and talk about it, that God will have to say, yes, my son, I know that more times than not you chose compassion over cruelty. You chose mercy over retribution. You chose honesty over lying and cheating. Oh, I can see the story. And I welcome the conversation. Because when I look back over your life, I can see, and I hope that they can agree, that more often than not, he chose peace over violence, forgiveness over retaliation. This is what I hope the story says. This is what I hope the conversations are about. See, because I know our Father, and I know that he's not a respecter of persons. He's not a respecter of labels. He's not a respecter of our confessions of faith. He's not a respecter of our attending worship services. See, he's not a respecter of those things, because some of the most evil people in this world that have traveled through this world have made statements of confessions, attend worship service on a regular basis. And I know our Father is not a respecter of those things, because I can remember, according to the record, that encompasses what the creation was about, that the first words that were recorded as God having spoken to man was about being fruitful. And then I can recall our big brother, Jesus of Nazareth, reiterating that concept by saying that the tree is known by its fruits. So in spite of all the confessions of faith, in spite of all the church going that we do, God is interested in what we do. He's interested because he knows that in this earth he grants us mercy in giving us about 36,000 decisions to make a day. And he's saying, my mercy allows you to choose you this day, and I hope that in your choosing that you choose good over evil. And because the tuition that you pay for eternal peace and freedom is in the deeds that you do while you're in the earth. When you make it to me, we have to talk about what you did in the earth. And I pray, one, that, again, that the conversation is dominated by all the good that Brent did while in this earth. But I also pray that if he should happen to fall on the other side of the equation of good and evil, and his evil somehow outweighed his good, that our Father would show my son some mercy and grant him eternal peace and eternal freedom. And my request of you is that you would join me as a witness, as a petitioner, in asking the Father, by whatever name you call it, however you identify him, but in asking that he would too grant Brent mercy if it's needed. Again, I hope that is not needed. And that he would also continue to grant us mercy, that we might right our wrongs, that we might grow into the best versions of who we are, because it's inevitable, whether at 29, which is when Brent made his transition, or at 79, that we're all going to have that conversation with the Creator. That we're all going to live longer out of our physical bodies than we live in our physical bodies. That the conversation that we have as it relates to where we spend eternity will be based on our living while in this earth. That he says, not only to Brent, but that he's able to say to us, well done, my good and my faithful son, my daughter. You have paid the price in this earth. You have done the work in this earth. Welcome to eternal peace and freedom. This is what I want for you. This is what I want for Brent. This is what I want for myself. I don't want our living in this earth to have been in vain because we were fixated on the temporary as opposed to the eternity. That we chose temporary satisfactions over eternal peace and freedom. And even if we found ourselves having made those decisions, that he continue to show us mercy, that we might begin to balance out the scoreboard, that our good, if it should happen to be lagging behind our evil, that he grants us the mercy to be able to engage in the actions that begin to allow us to even out the score, and then for our good to then outpace and outweigh our evil. But that in the event that we should make the sudden transition out of this physical world into eternity, that if the score is close, that if we're just outside the margin of error, that he would show us mercy. That he would show us mercy. Again, beloved, I thank you for all of your well wishes. I thank you for your messages of condolence. Certainly, myself and my family don't take it lightly. Appreciate it. See it. Notice it. Feel it. And thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's been a difficult time. I'm sure it'll continue to. I'll have my moments. But with your help, I can feel a little bit better knowing that together we petition the Father that if it's needed, that he would show my son, your brother, your nephew, your grandson, your son. Because when you strip away all the labels, black, white, Christian, Muslim, male, female, heterosexual, homosexual, we're all human beings. We're all brothers and sisters of this human race that our Creator created us to be a part of. Which is why I want for you what I want for my son, mercy. Which is why I asked that you would join me in praying that God would grant Brent mercy if it's needed. Again, thank you so very much for all your love and support, well wishes and condolences. Until next time, take my life, take this experience, and realize that no man knows the time nor the hour when he'll make the transition. But the time that we do have, we'll utilize it, choosing good over evil, choosing eternity over the temporal, choosing love over hate, choosing to build up instead of tearing down. So that when we have that conversation with God, he'll say, welcome home. Well done. Here's your wings. Go back and now help others who will also have to have this conversation. Let them know it's not about their confessions of faith. It's not about what was done for them. It's about what they will do for others. How will you make someone else's life better? How will you make this world better? What will be your contribution in this earth to let the world know that you came and not only was you just a passing light, but that you made a difference? I hope that in some small way that I'm making a difference. I know that you've made a great difference in my life, in my family's life. So again, I say thank you. Enjoy the remainder of your day. Goodbye.